We began this journey thinking we understood people, that we knew what made them tick, what they wanted, how they loved, how they loved, how they lied. But then something happens, a betrayal, a lie hidden behind a smile, a moment of silence when you needed someone to speak, and suddenly the illusion cracks. You look around and realize you don't really know anyone, not fully. And worse, you don't even fully know yourself. That's where Nietzsche enters, not as a philosopher to admire, but as a mirror to confront. He didn't try to comfort us. He didn't offer soft wisdom. He dropped spiritual dynamite into the human psyche and dared us to pick up the pieces. And if we're brave enough to do that, we'll never see people the same way again. I'm not here to make you feel safe. I'm here to show you what lies beneath the surface of human behavior. Nietzsche's first truth is simple but terrifying. People wear masks, and they don't even know it. He called it the will to appearance, that deep, unconscious drive to present something to the world that hides what's real. We all do it. You do it. I do it. We act kind when we feel rage. We act strong when we feel broken. And we act indifferent when we're dying for connection. But Nietzsche wasn't judging this. He was revealing it. Because until you see the mask, you can't remove it. And until you see it in others, you'll keep getting hurt by believing their performance is who they are. That leads directly to the second truth. Every virtue can be a disguise for a vice. Think about that. Generosity can hide control. Humility can mask pride. Love can be a leash. Nietzsche warned us that morality often becomes a weapon, used not to elevate but to dominate. He said, every moral system is a sign language of the emotions. In other words, people use values to manipulate perception. And unless we learn to read those hidden motives, we'll keep giving our trust to those who haven't earned it. So ask yourself, what are people really seeking when they act good? And even more bravely, when you act good, what are you secretly hoping to gain? The third truth is even darker and more liberating. Most people are not seeking truth. They're seeking comfort, and that includes us. Nietzsche saw that humans would rather believe a beautiful lie than face an uncomfortable truth. That's why religions thrive. That's why political ideologies become cults. That's why we stay in relationships that drain us, because the truth would force us to change, and change is terrifying. But Nietzsche wasn't trying to destroy meaning, he was trying to free us from the lies we cling to. Because only when we stop chasing comfort can we finally touch something real. And realness, no matter how raw, is the beginning of spiritual power. The fourth truth hits at the core of manipulation. People don't just lie to others, they lie to themselves first. Nietzsche called it self-deception, and he believed it was one of the most dangerous forces in the world. Because once a person believes their own lie, they become capable of anything. They can justify cruelty as love. They can defend ignorance as faith. They can call cowardice virtue. And they'll believe it with all their heart. So if you want to see people clearly, stop listening to what they say and start watching what they do. And even more importantly, look in the mirror and ask, what lies have I bought into about myself? What story am I living that protects me from a truth I'm not ready to face? Nietzsche's fifth truth is subtle but explosive. No one is as noble as they appear when they feel watched. He observed that the presence of others changes us. We act differently when we're seen. We become characters in a play. We start performing. And over time, we forget we're acting at all. Think about the people in your life. Who are they when no one's looking? Who are you when no one's watching? The spiritual path demands that we stop performing and start being. That we peel away the layers of expectation and reclaim the raw, unfiltered self beneath. But that takes courage, because when the mask drops, not everyone will applaud. Some will walk away, some will attack, but the ones who stay, they're the real ones, the rare ones, the ones who see you. Maybe the most haunting insight Nietzsche ever gave us was this: Behind every ideal is a hidden wound. That's truth number 6. People chase greatness because they feel small. They seek purity because they feel dirty. They demand justice because they feel powerless. And that's not wrong, it's human. But if you don't confront the wound behind your ideal, you'll turn it into a weapon. And that's how revolutions become dictatorships. That's how lovers become enemies. That's how healers become manipulators. So ask yourself, what wound am I trying to fix by becoming who I think I should be? Because until you face that, the performance will never end. You'll keep trying to earn love that can only come when you stop pretending. Here's a question that could change your life forever. If no one could see you, who would you stop trying to be? Imagine that. No more applause, no more judgment, no more image to protect. Just you, your thoughts, your desires, your fears. Would you still act the same? Would you still chase the same goals? Would you still surround yourself with the same people? Nietzsche believed that freedom begins when we no longer need to be seen, when we reclaim our inner authority, when we stop living for the crowd and start living for the truth. And that's not a path for the faint of heart. It's a spiritual war against illusion, against the ego, against everything that keeps us asleep. But here's the gift. Nietzsche didn't leave us in the darkness. He believed that once we burn down the illusions, once we walk through the fire, something new is born. He called it the Übermensch, not a superior human, but a free one, a being who creates their own values, who lives from their own depth, who doesn't need approval or permission to exist. That's the path. That's what we're here for. Not to fit in, not to be good, but to become real, to become whole, to become ourselves, no matter what it costs. The will to power. Why most people don't want freedom. They want to master. We often say we want freedom, that we want to be ourselves, live authentically, speak our truth. But Nietzsche saw something most people never admit, not even to themselves. He saw that most people don't actually want freedom. They want safety. They want certainty. They want someone else to take responsibility so they don't have to face the terrifying weight of choice. That's the 7th truth. People crave masters more than they crave liberation. It's easier to follow a leader, adopt a belief system, or hide behind a cause than to stand alone and say, I will decide. Nietzsche said, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. And that's because the tribe gives you comfort, but it often costs you your soul. The 8th truth is even more uncomfortable. People obey not because they believe, but because they fear. Fear of punishment, fear of exclusion, fear of facing the chaos of life without a map. Nietzsche saw that obedience is rarely rooted in morality. It's rooted in the terror of being wrong, alone, or unloved. Look at history. Look at religion. Look at politics. People cling to systems not because they've questioned them deeply, but because they're afraid of what happens if they don't. And here's the question we have to ask ourselves. Where in my own life am I still obeying out of fear? What parts of me are still waiting for permission to act, speak, or leave? Until we face that, we're not free. We're just well-dressed prisoners. Nietzsche's 9th truth is a dagger to the ego. People will sacrifice truth for belonging. This one hurts because it's so personal. We've all done it. Swallowed our voice to avoid rejection. Played dumb to fit in. Nodded when we disagreed. Nietzsche called this the herd instinct. That deep animal drive to blend in, to conform, to be part of something bigger. But what if the cost of belonging is betraying your truth? What if the price of acceptance is self-abandonment? He believed that true spiritual growth requires solitude, not isolation, but the ability to stand alone in truth without needing the tribe to validate you. So let me ask you, where have you traded authenticity for approval? And more importantly, are you ready to stop? The 10th truth is one of Nietzsche's most radical ideas. Morality is often a mask worn by resentment. He called it slave morality. the idea that many moral systems aren't born from love, but from weakness disguised as virtue. Think of the person who says, "It's wrong to be rich," but what they really mean is, "I'm angry I'm not wealthy," or the idea that ambition is evil, when it's often just a projection of personal fear. Nietzsche wasn't saying all morality is fake. He was saying, be suspicious of the motives beneath it. Ask, is this truly a value I hold from wisdom, or is it a mask for a wound I haven't healed? That's the path of the awakened, questioning not just the world, but the self. And that brings us to the 11th truth. People don't want to know the truth about others, because it forces them to question the truth about themselves. This is why we romanticize. This is why we idolize. We create stories about people, heroes, villains, lovers, enemies, because it's easier than facing the complexity of who they really are. It's easier than facing the complexity of who we are. But Nietzsche believed that spiritual maturity comes when we can see people clearly, without needing to label them as good or bad, right or wrong. Just human, flawed, searching, contradictory. Like us. When we stop needing people to be perfect, we stop needing ourselves to be perfect. And that's where compassion begins, not the soft, sentimental kind, but the fierce, grounded compassion that sees the whole truth and still chooses to love. How Nietzsche's final truths burn away illusion and give birth to the true self. When you strip away the illusions, when you can no longer hide behind comforting narratives or inherited beliefs, what are you left with? That's the moment Nietzsche lived for, not to destroy you, but to reveal you. His 12th truth is not for the faint of heart. You must become the fire that forges your own identity, or the world will burn you into what it needs. Most people are shaped by external forces, family, culture, media, trauma. They live like wax, molded by every hand but their own. But Nietzsche's call was clear: burn off what is false. Create yourself, not as a reaction, but as an act of will. That's the birth of the authentic self, not born from tradition or rebellion, but from conscious creation. The question isn't who am I? The deeper question is, what am I willing to become? When you strip away the illusions, when you can no longer hide behind comforting narratives or inherited beliefs, what are you left with? That's the moment Nietzsche lived for, not to destroy you, but to reveal you. His 12th truth is not for the faint of heart. You must become the fire that forges your own identity, or the world will burn you into what it needs. Most people are shaped by external forces, family, culture, media, trauma. They live like wax, molded by every hand but their own. But Nietzsche's call was clear: burn off what is false. Create yourself, not as a reaction, but as an act of will. That's the birth of the authentic self, not born from tradition or rebellion, but from conscious creation. The question isn't who am I? The deeper question is, what am I willing to become? The 13th truth is rarely spoken aloud because it terrifies people. Suffering is not a punishment, it's a crucible. Nietzsche didn't believe suffering made us noble by default. He believed it could, but only if we faced it consciously. Most people run from pain. They numb it, bury it, blame others for it. But Nietzsche taught that suffering is the forge of transformation. It strips you down. It exposes what's real. It reveals what you cling to. And if you don't flinch, if you stare directly into it, you come out on the other side with something unshakable. Not optimism, not positivity, something deeper, depth itself. So here's the question you must ask next time pain visits your life. What is this trying to burn away in me? And more importantly, what is it trying to awaken? Nietzsche's 14th truth is subtle, but it's everywhere once you see it. People don't chase truth, they chase meaning. And they'll accept any lie that makes life feel meaningful. That's why we follow gurus. That's why we join movements. That's why we cling to identities. Meaning is oxygen for the soul. But Nietzsche warned that if you don't create your own meaning, you'll become prey to someone else's. We want life to make sense. We want it to matter. But the boldest act of spiritual courage is to stop demanding the universe explain itself and instead say, I will give it meaning. I will choose to matter. This is what separates the awakened from the asleep. One demands a purpose, the other chooses it. Which one are you? The 15th truth is the one most people feel but can't articulate. People fear their potential far more than their limitations. You think what scares you is failure, rejection, shame. But Nietzsche saw the deeper fear. What if you're more powerful than you're ready to be? What if the life you're meant to live demands the death of the version of you that's been playing small? Power, real power, comes with responsibility, with solitude, with loss, and that's why most people retreat from it. They'd rather be victims than creators, rather complain than command. But if you feel something inside you that won't be silenced, some untapped force, some quiet knowing, don't run from it. That's not ego. That's destiny. And it's waiting for you to choose yourself. And finally, the 16th, 17th, and 18th truths come together like thunder. You are not here to conform. You are not here to be understood. You are not here to be saved. You are here to become. Nietzsche believed that life was not a puzzle to solve, but a canvas to paint, a battlefield to fight on. A mountain to climb not because it's easy, but because you were born to rise. The world will offer you identities. It will beg you to be predictable. It will punish your fire and reward your obedience. But if you ever want to truly live, you must be willing to be misunderstood, to be alone, to be misunderstood, to be alone, to be laughed at, to be feared. Because only then can you be free. So now I leave you with one final question, one that could echo through the rest of your life. If you stopped asking for permission, what would you dare to become? Don't answer quickly. Let it haunt you. Let it crack the shell you've been living in. Let it burn through every excuse you've ever made. Because the self you've been waiting to meet isn't in the future. It's not in a book. It's not in someone else's approval. It's right here, inside you, buried beneath layers of fear and obedience and illusion. Nietzsche didn't want to give you answers. He wanted to set you on fire. And now that the match has been lit, what will you burn away?